right, hello. Welcome to MORE-VILLE, Orville, the podcast that reviews the Orville. This is your host, Mike Allen. I'm joined by G.I. Jolie.
That's me.
And Champion.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Woo! All right.
So good. How are you?
No duress, no pressure there.
No duress, no pressure. Not having one of those calamitous days that shakes you to the very core of your being. I'm fine. I'm relaxed. I'm good.
We can tell. This is good. What's your secret, Champion?
My secret is to take on way more projects and stresses than any human being should rationally be able to take on. And then, complain about it when things go sideways, which they occasionally do.
Awesome. All right, well, guess what? We're here to review the TV show called The Orville. And
I've heard of that show.
Yes.
Me too.
We left
So
off last
familiar.
time on a cliffhanger. So we are about to review part 2 of the most exciting episode of the series so far, and this is Identity. And Champ Ian is going to tell us what this one is all about.
I'm going to tell you what I can recall of this all about. I watched this episode a couple of years ago, and then I watched it again last night after trying what the kids call a dab pen.
Sorry.
Can you explain to the listeners what that is exactly?
Oh well, it's the new technology of cannabis consumption. Essentially, you don't have to roll up plants anymore. Now you plug this thing into your USB, and then you plug it into your mouth, and next thing you know, you're forgetting what planet you're on. And I did some of that while I basically yes. So I so that's how I prepared for this episode, is by altering my mental state and then watching a TV show and trying to follow along. And this is what I gathered. We picked up where we left off with the Orville speeding towards Earth with a Kaylon attack force in hot pursuit. Now, the Kaylon had kept the Orville crew alive because they needed some subterfuge. When they got to Earth, they needed Mercer and various other people to try to trick the Planetary Union into believing that this was actually an envoy, a diplomatic envoy of Kaylon. So, as we're speeding towards Earth, all of the Orville crew are herded into the shuttle bay, where they're guarded by 2 Kaylon. Gordon tries to talk his way past them, or he tries to talk his way into at least understanding why they're being kept alive. They don't know why they're being kept alive yet. But they're also trying to escape. Now, here in the shuttle bay with everybody else, they've got Ty and Marcus, that's Dr. Finn's kids. And Ty, in particular, doesn't want to believe that Isaac has turned heel and is now and is
Use
now
a wrestling
evil.
term.
So Ty tries to rush the Kaylons guarding the door because he wants to go see Isaac, and they the Kaylons, they grab him, and Kiali, the new security chief, she rushes to his aid but is immediately shot right in the chest. Now, she's not dead, but she's in rough shape. Now, this does give the Orville crew an opportunity to get some people out of the shuttle bay. And Mercer and the doctor bring Kiali to sickbay, and they revive her. Now, Isaac, at this point, I think he orders everyone to the briefing room, where Gordon and some of the other senior staff are already there waiting. And the Kaylon primary insists that they radio the Planetary Union and explain that there's a diplomatic envoy. And, is it around now that it's the USS Roosevelt, another Union ship that Mercer knows the captain of, comes out of Quantum Drive, and they have a little chit-chat about their new friends, tries to convince the captain of the Roosevelt that this is a diplomatic mission, and he gives them a secret code to indicate that they're in distress, which is maybe the worst tell I think I've ever heard. And he offers him a 13-button salute.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Right? Like even if Isaac hadn't served all this time on the Union ship, I mean, I think that he recognized that it was subterfuge, but I mean, completely obvious. But the Kaylon realized that this is a trick, and they easily destroy the Roosevelt while everyone else watches in horror. It's actually a pretty compelling scene. So they bring everyone back to the shuttle bay, but Captain Mercer is to be punished for his intransigence, and he's brought down to where an ensign is waiting by an airlock. The Kaylon just brought him up, and he has no idea what's going on. Sticks him in the airlock, and he's just going to jettison him into space to teach Ed a lesson. And Isaac's there with him, and this is where we see the first glimpses of Isaac starting to doubt what the Kaylon are doing. And he tries to convince the primary not to kill the ensign, says that he's got some engineering skills that might be useful, and that killing him might steal the resolve of the remaining prisoners in the shuttle bay. But Isaac is sent to the bridge, and the ensign is fired off into space anyway, while Ed watches in some distress. So they've got to find a way to get out of there. They enlist Yaphet, because he's a little blob man, and he can fit through this tiny little hatch. And he runs and gets them a weapon, and they shoot the guards. Oh, what happens at that point?
They're able to get one gun out.
They get one gun out, and they shoot the two guards.
But Yaphet goes back with Ty. Because they need Ty to input something into the computer while Yaphet does something else.
That's right. Ty is scrambling frequencies while Yaphet is sending a message to the Union. Now that message is received. We see Admiral Halsey freak out and recall the entire fleet. Now, as this is happening, yes, Kelly and Gordon commandeer a shuttle.
Yes.
And they fly to Krill space.
Yeah, Krill space.
Yeah.
Because the Union Armada is not enough to destroy the Kaylon on their own. So they have to team up with their mortal enemy, the Krill. So they make contact with the Krill. Yaphet's message is received, so the Union fleet is waiting. There's a battle. It looks grim, but the Krill arrive. The Kaylon get their butts handed to them, and their remaining forces speed back to Kaylon space. And the Orville and the Planetary Union fleet and the Krill look as though they have the beginnings of some sort of truce as the episode ends.
Excuse me.
I think that's most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was very good.
Well, thank
Memory
you.
master.
So yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about part one, about sort of the shock of this huge plot twist for the show, in a show that I don't even think we knew there was plot twists coming, right? We just thought this is what the show is going to be. It's going to be a funny take on the Star Trek premise, but all of a sudden we're getting a plot twist that sort of rewrites a season and a half of the show, and at least it rewrites Isaac, right? So, I mean, as far as this part two episode, I guess the question is do we feel like it lives up to part one? I think it did. I mean, I'm happy that Isaac is kind of redeemed, right? Other than that,
double heel turn.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think, to be honest, even on its own as a dramatic, action-packed episode, I'm happy with every single thing about this episode. And if it was in a more serious show, I think the only thing that I would criticize as far as the plot is that if Yaphet is gonna go through the trouble of going through the pipe and going to get a gun, why can he come back with 30 guns or 50 guns instead of one laser gun, right? That was the only ridiculous thing. I mean, obviously, okay, fine, you're going to get the kid in there because he's the only one that could fit. But in a more realistic show, the kid maybe wouldn't have got that far or whatever. But other than that, I thought it was a great episode. Jolie, what did you think?
Oh my gosh. I love... Like, in all my rewatching or all my excitement to rewatch, because I knew that this was coming in season 2, I was the most excited to rewatch this. And it really, like, just lived up to its name. Or to its memory, I should say. I didn't remember it being so action packed. There are like so many little pieces of the puzzle that need to be put together in order for it to all come together. And to be honest, I didn't remember fully how Isaac how he propels himself through this whole thing. And I forgot about the double heel turn, to be honest. And when he did it, I was like, yes. And again, like the episode where where he's dating Claire and they're trying to explain how he's becoming human, without saying that he's gaining humanity, because this kind of being can't. It's the same thing where he's using like data or data.
Both,
that he's collected about humans to reason with his own, like with the Kaylon primary. He's like, well, no, based on what I've encountered, Kaylon primary, like, and there's no emotions in it. He's like, I don't think it's a good idea to kill this guy because he's like, and then the Kaylon primary, suspecting that he's siding with the planetary, the captain. He's like, why would you think that? He's like, well, based on what I've seen, like, this will steal the resolve. Like, this is not going to, they're going to come down on us based on these kinds of sort of martial actions. And of course, whatever, the primary doesn't care because they've never encountered humans before. I think.
Yeah, I don't think they have, no.
No, because it's like, how many iterations of a Kaylon have there been since they killed their makers, right? Maybe Kaylon primary was the first ever Kaylon, but who knows? But anyway, long story short, this is the type of episode that that really gets me excited. There's all kinds of great stuff. I don't think it's perfect. Like the stuff with Ty, I agree about. It's like a little, like, why didn't they send Ty back with guns? Or sorry, why didn't Yaphet also just grab a bunch of guns?
Right.
But didn't he crawl up into a Kaylon and like get fried?
Yes, he did.
But he did before. But I think that was the second time he went back because he did successfully come back with a gun, didn't he? Or am I wrong? Or was it Ty that brought back the gun?
It was the second time.
Yeah.
Yaphet brought back the gun the first time he went in. That's when they launched the shuttle.
Right.
And then he went back with Ty, and they were discovered while he was sending the message. So in order to save Ty and buy some time, Yaphet crawled into the one Kaylon and fried him while also frying himself.
Which was a cool little effect, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I also, like, I get not... Like, Ty is not the ideal choice, aside from the fact that he's small, but at the same time, him being captured led to him being brought to Isaac, which led to Isaac fully turning on the Kaylon, right? So he needed to be out of the shuttle bay and alone with the Kaylon in order for that to work.
Which I'm fine with. Because all the other children on the ship, I don't care. I don't give a damn about.
And to be honest, if, like, Ty's not the worst actor in the world either. I mean, like, he doesn't bug me whenever I see him on stage. He's not Alexander Rozhenko.
So here's the thing, exciting episode. I loved everything about it. I actually think the Kaylon is out there. Yeah, the Kaylon. They're actually in a way more frightening than, I don't know if are they more frightening than the Borg. I think they kind of are, because they're sort of just they're not really ambitious. They're not really evil. They just think humanoids are inferior, and it's just like a matter of logic. Like, they're inferior and their type enslaved us before, so we have to kill them. It's not out of malice. It's just out of logic, and that's why I think in a way they're kind of more frightening, because there's almost no reasoning with them. Obviously, in this episode, we see that you can reason with Isaac, but the rest of them, I don't know. I find them pretty frightening. What do you guys think?
They're scary in like a Cybermen or more like Dalek kind of way, where they will just kill you.
Right.
Yeah. They don't.
Like,
yeah.
I still say the Borg are the scarier threat. First of all, from a design standpoint, right? I still can't take the Kaylon that seriously.
I'll give you that.
Because of the silver jumpsuits. I don't know. I don't see them being that threatening. The Borg, on the other hand, had this fantastic cyborgy weird stuff just grafted onto people in random spots, and it was just it was chaotic, and it had no room for aesthetic at all.
Yeah,
which was part of the point, obviously.
Like, if a human was preserved in formaldehyde, but like without the jar and the formaldehyde, that is what
Right.
That is what the Borg look like when you could see their skin, and it like freaked me out as a child. It still kind of freaks me out a little bit.
And what's more, the Kaylon just want to kill you. The Borg want to turn you into one of them.
That's true.
So you're still alive, but now you're getting those things attached onto you, and you're being forced to, help enslave your people. And that being said, I think that this was a stronger sequel than The Best of Both Worlds, Part 2.
Yes.
I think they did a much better job of maintaining that tension.
I think it's universally agreed upon that Part 2 is not as good as Part 1 in Best of Both Worlds. And I think it's partly because they made the huge mistake of writing and filming Part 1 without ever having a plan for Part 2. And I think that is just a big blunder for any writer,
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I believe they planned it all from top to bottom, and it was planned in season 1, and then they're like, I think they saved it for season 2. Now, since I've already watched a few episodes ahead, have you guys noticed that Isaac, except for one episode, is completely missing from the episodes following this one? Have you noticed that?
I think I saw him in the next episode.
Yeah, but then he's missing. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's just missing. So it almost makes me wonder if they didn't know what to do with them, or they kind of wrote them out or filmed them out of order. I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Well, I mean, the next couple episodes, based on what they are about, I would say it's not that like there's a couple other people that are removed from it too. Like, if thinking about like lasting impressions, for sure, it's like all a Malloy driven episode. So there's like a few other characters that they don't even really talk about.
Was that the episode where Malloy just sits in the holodeck all episode?
Yep, and Bortus eats cigarettes.
We'll talk about that later. Yep.
Can't wait to review that one.
Oh yes, and then Blood of Patriots is where they it's another Malloy episode, sort of, and Krill episode. So yeah, you're right. I think Isaac is in the next one, but he's not really in the next one after that. And then the next one after that is like kind of a Kelly episode. So I mean, there's big drama that happens with the Kaylon, and I can see why the writing staff would want to cool it with Isaac, but also I can't, like, he remains part of the crew, but I don't know how hard it would be to trust him after that.
That's what I'm wondering too, and I don't know if I would either, right? I mean, up until a point, he was completely on board with the Kaylon, so. Yeah. But anyway, why don't we talk about jokes? It's kind of that time, isn't it? Okay, so here we go, folks.
Yeah.
I've recorded a few here. Let's hope this tech works out for us here. Okay, check it out.
Sorry, I was in the pee corner. Come on. Oh, well, there's no place to go to the bathroom down here, so we all agreed on one corner. Yeah, no, trust me, you don't want to go over there unless you have to.
Okay, not only is that funny though, but that's something in all genre fiction they completely ignore. Like when they stick someone in the brig or a prison or any small confined space, if I was in that space longer than 45 minutes, there would be a problem, okay? They never address this issue. Where is the bathroom? So I thought that was hilarious. But anyway. Any other comments?
Yeah, you're right. And I was laughing at that joke, but I was also thinking, like, that's also completely plausible. And the Kaylon are not going to have any concerns about, where they're going to go to the bathroom. Right. And what else are you going to do? You're going to pick a corner. Of course, that's what you're going to do. Uh-huh. It's funny, but it tracks. It tracks.
Yeah, 100%.
I do just want to say that I think writing is changing because that came up and I didn't honestly think about it. Like when that first was a joke, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, the bathroom, no one thinks about that. I just finished watching that Korean zombie television show, All of Us Are Dead.
Okay.
And that is something that they actually address. Like in the apocalypse, like, and they're trapped in the where do we go to the bathroom? Like they address it.
It's worth
but
addressing.
Anyway, and like, right? And they address it, I think, in Station 11, which is another like apocalypse style television show. They talk about all these things, and I'm like, they didn't do that before, and now they are. Just like, when people were like, well, The Walking Dead, why wouldn't they just bike everywhere? If they run out of gas, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's hard to bike over the dead corpses of zombies, and humans.
Well, if you got a BMX bike, you just launch over that.
BMX,
just
get up on those
tires.
pegs.
All right.
But anyway.
Okay, ready for the next one.
Yeah.
Just a walk in the park, Kazansky.
Now, you can't see this, listeners, but that is the part where Malloy does the Iceman bite. Remember that? Like at the Kaylon or whatever, at the Krill. I was screaming. I woke my neighbors. I was screaming, laughing so hard. That was
and
beautiful.
he was in a Krill fighter.
Yes.
Vehicle?
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Could you imagine being like a Union pilot and being in a Krill ship? That'd be awesome. Anyway,
of course, yeah.
That's me being a geek. Next joke.
Okay, now Jolie, just to make sure, do you get what that is a reference to?
Ask me again what my cat's name is, and I'll tell you it is Goose.
Okay, you got me. Okay. And you know what, guys? That's actually the only other joke I recorded because, well, it was a very dramatic episode, so it wasn't full of laughs. But are there any that I forgot about?
I have one.
Okay.
When Kelly and Malloy go out to get the Krill to, coax them onto their side, he says, "May the blessings of Avis be upon you." And Kelly goes, "Huh." And Malloy goes, "See, I told you it was a thing." Like they didn't believe them. Like they didn't, like the rest of the crew didn't believe Ed and Malloy when they came back and said their god is named Avis.
Oh, okay.
Get it? Because it's a car company. They probably thought that they're being messed with because Malloy always messes with everybody. Because of course that would be a joke. Anyway,
yeah, it was a good little callback, and it was just a little tiny hint. They didn't hit it too hard. It was perfect.
Was there any Bortus goodness? I'm sure there had to have been.
There must have been something more we're forgetting when they were all in that, when they were all locked in the cargo bay, but I don't remember what they were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember any Bortus humor at all. There was there was a nice little scene at the beginning where Gordon tries to reason with the Kaylon and try and figure out why they're being kept alive. And yeah, have you ever been to New Jersey? I think you'd love it there. People just say it the way it is, just like you guys.
By the way, I want to talk about quickly one of my favorite moments in the show, and that's when that crew person gets ejected into space. Remember that?
That's a weird thing that'd be your favorite.
Well,
you watched it over and over again.
It was horrific, but it's also like, why did they never do that in Star Trek? Like, I don't know. It just seems like of all the things, I don't remember that ever happening in Star Trek.
Because they didn't want to give kids nightmares.
Well, maybe. But, I mean, as Mike Stoklasa pointed out, he thinks Star Trek is accurately described as a horror, and then he did a montage of all the horrific ways people died in the original series. So I think there's quite enough, things to keep people sleepless at night in the original show that I think they could have showed someone freezing to death in space, but whatever.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Mm-hmm. The idea that
go ahead.
That was how you would die in the vacuum of space is scary.
Very, very. And it's very real. Like, that's the one thing about Star Trek is I don't think they played up the hostility of outer space enough. Like, for example, remember in the original movie Alien, when they land on the planet, it's so hostile when they go outside, and it's like a constant, wind, and I think they had suits. Yeah, they had space suits on. That was just the cool thing about that movie. But anyway, I also want to point out some trivia. Apparently, in the Navy, there actually is a 13-button salute. And what it means is when you're about to have sex and you rip off your trousers so fast that all 13 buttons come undone immediately. That's what that means. Yeah.
Of course. That would be the distress code.
Yeah. Also, I didn't realize this. I guess the Krill captain's named Dalek. I didn't even realize that. Did you?
What?
Yeah.
I thought he was... Where does it say this?
I'm looking at the trivia on IMDb. The Krill captain is named Dalek. A possible play on the Doctor Who villains, the Daleks. So,
Krill.
Yeah.
I thought, whenever I hear Krill and Kaylon, I have to think really quick what species you're talking about. And immediately I was like, no, but his name is Kaylon Primary. What are you talking about? Sorry, Krill.
Yeah,
Krill.
a lot of Ks. Klingon, right?
Mm-hmm. I like the design for the Kaylon warships.
Oh,
the way
excellent.
that the Borg are scary is the way that those spheres are. Like the spheres really captured the menacing nature that the Borgs and the Borg cube represent.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, if you wandered into a part of unexplored space, like if you just zapped yourself in and there was a Borg cube there, I would shit my pants.
Right.
Like that's how much it would suck. And then I would be Borg.
That's the thing. I think when I was younger, I took it for granted, but whoever thought of that design of the Borg cube is a genius. Like, that is so intimidating, just seeing a gigantic cube flying through space. Like, just amazing, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
again,
one of those...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead, Julie.
Well, I was gonna say it's like one of those pictures where you know that picture of Putin that's really cool, but you zoom in and it's just made out of little dicks.
Okay, sure.
Photos of dicks.
It's exactly like a Borg cube. Yep.
The Borg cube is massive, right? But when you zoom in and get closer, you realize it's just all tiny humans in one big circuit board, and it's and you have to zoom in far, so it really gives you an idea of the scale, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. This is the last thing I'm going to say about the show, but I completely forgot Picard started this week, but I haven't watched it yet. Picard season 2. Speaking of Borg. Anyway. No one's excited. Okay, anyway. We'll talk about that later. Okay.
I was like, I did, and we're just going to move on.
Well, do you want to talk about it?
Season 2.
No, because it's terrible.
I haven't even seen Picard season 1.
Was it terrible, really?
I think it has to do with the fact that I'm watching Orville.
Something better? Yeah.
I guess, and it's just reminding me of how bleak they're making this Picard's world.
Yeah.
Like, Ian hasn't started it, but I know that you know the whole vineyard thing, right? Like, he lives on a vineyard. So it starts with a scene of people, just workers on his vineyard. But you see B-reel in commercials from vineyards that actually exist, like, in modern day. And, like, they're bright and sunny and wonderful. And you look at the footage that they captured of this vineyard that is Picard's vineyard, and it's just like, there's just something different and sterile about it. Like, it's very J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd have to see it. I don't know if he's the right comparison, because I actually think his movies are fairly bright. I don't know. Like Force Awakens.
You know the scenes where you can barely see because they're just so full of light beams?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Okay.
And then everything was brown.
I think that, and this is a topic for another day, but there's been a weird, bleakness to a lot of genre fiction for the past, 20 years, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't really like it. I think that in, superhero and science fiction, I think the only saving graces right now are James Gunn and the director of Thor Ragnarok, help me out, Julie, Taika Waititi, our savior, Taika Waititi. I don't know, if it wasn't for those guys, there wouldn't be much for me anyway. And Seth MacFarlane, he's another savior. And I just saw The Batman last night, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but that is a fucking bleak movie. That's all I'm going to say.
Did you enjoy it?
I had reservations, mixed feelings. More mixed feelings than I anticipated I would have, but I don't want to say anything else.
I'm past the point of caring about Batman. It's just been too many of them.
At least still Team Edward?
I'm always Team Edward. I will never not be Team Edward, okay? And coming up soon, we'll be starting our Twilight podcast, so look out for it. But anyway, I think that wraps up our review of Identity Part 2. Again, like we've already said, this is so far the most exciting chapter in all of Orville-dom, I think. I can't even imagine. This is kind of like their best of both worlds. I don't know if they can top this as far as plot twists, put it that way. Unless Malloy turns out to be evil or something, but
Malloy turns out to be a secret Kaylon.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, obviously one of the best episodes of the show so far. We all love it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
The one thing that I didn't care for was the space battle scenes.
Really?
That's the one thing.
Because they went out of their way to beat Star Wars, and you don't think they did it?
I think they tried too hard a little bit.
Okay.
Right? And that's just me. That's just me being old. Me being old and cranky. One of my favorite space battles on the screen of all time is Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Of course.
In the nebula, and it's just there's so much tension in that battle, but there's really not a lot going on. It's a lot of where are they, tense moments where nobody can see anything, punctuated with these extreme ships shooting at one another. And as I'm watching the battle in the Orville in this in Identity Part 2, I was kind of reminded of is it the opening scene of Attack of the Clones?
No, Sith. Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, and it's just 10 minutes of just all these ships fighting each other, and I can't tell who's shooting at whom, and I just kind of stopped caring after a while, and I kind of got that here. It was like the battle. It was nice for the first couple of minutes, but then it's just like, all right, I'm not following anymore, and that just might have been the dab pen, but I think that you spread things out a little bit more. It's a little bit claustrophobic, a little bit chaotic. Maybe that's what they were going for, but it didn't really do it for me. But that's minor.
Yeah, and the thing is I think everyone's trying to top one another, right? And even if you go back to Return of the Jedi, the space battle scene in Return of the Jedi was excellent. It was one of the highlights of that movie. But you could just go back to the first Star Wars, and the battle between the Millennium Falcon and two TIE fighters was one of the most exciting scenes in the movie. Most exciting scenes of the whole franchise, right? 3 ships. That's it. And it's just Luke and Han with those little guns, right? And those little things, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
But that's all you need, right? And like you just said, in Wrath of Khan, 2 ships. And they're not even at full power. They're just sort of drifting past each other in the fog. And there's more tension there than Revenge of the Sith or this scene or whatever else it may be. 100% agree.
Do you know what though? I can see Ian's point about them being kind of like faceless battles, but I will say that as far as the stakes are concerned, the stakes were still pretty high because you saw the loss. It reminded me of Battlestar Galactica, where you saw whole gigantic ships just being shot down or disintegrating, like the way the trails of fireworks come down, and it's like there are thousands of people on those ships and they're just gone now, and they did that in this battle, and it served to make like the Kaylon more threatening, I will say, and it gave me that like weird scared of Cylons feeling that I got from Battlestar Galactica. So like if it was, the battle was crazy. It was sort of, faceless in space, shiny objects, but as far as feelings, it evoked a lot of like feelings of fear in me. I will
and there were some parts with the battle that I did enjoy. Like little touches, like you got to see some people sucked out into space when the ship took on damage.
Right. Once again, there you go. Yep. Hostility of space. Yep. So yeah.
Bleak.
I also think that it's funny how we just talked about how bleak Picard is when compared to this episode of the Orville, right? Where the Earth is in peril, everyone's dying, but isn't it nice that it's uplifting? Unlike Picard.
It's funny though. It's like it's not even about what the plot is about. It's about how you treat it, right? Like, I mean, even Empire Strikes Back, the stakes are the highest they ever were in Star Wars, I think. But at the same time, you watch that movie and there's so many fun moments. There's so much humor, right? There's and even though it ends on a down note, it doesn't mean that the rest of the movie has to be down. And I think that's my problem with, so many movies since, 1991, is that the Hollywood gets it in their head that if a movie is about a sad subject, the movie has to be sad, the lighting has to be sad, the music has to be sad, the actors have to be sad. And that's not how reality works. Like, that's why in a movie like, say, what was the one with Casey Affleck? The really sad one with him and Michelle Williams a couple years ago. That it was nominated for Best Picture, Jolie. You remember? Well, anyway,
did Ben Affleck direct that one?
No, it was Casey Affleck. It was a very sad movie. But anyway, the point is that it's a great movie. There's a scene where they're at a funeral and they're playing it for laughs. Like, you're laughing at the naturalness and the spontaneity of the human interaction. And in a movie that focuses on this horrific death, the funeral is one of the funniest parts in the movie. Not funny in like a slapstick way, just like ridiculous,
uplifting and light.
Yeah, just something about it. And I think it just shows that there's I don't know, it's almost it's cynical to the point that these people think that it's cool to be cynical, and I think that's ridiculous. And I think that this episode shows that that's not the case. You can do a movie about the threat of complete annihilation and still have a joke about a pea corner. I think that's great.
It's Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, Manchester by the Sea, masterpiece. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, I guess that wraps up our review of Identity Part 2 then, right, guys?
I think so.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so you can find every episode of MORE-VILLE Orville at www.comicbooksyndicate.com. We're reviewing every episode of the show in chronological order in preparation for the big Season 3 coming in June. We are so excited for it, so keep listening every week. So far, we're uploading 3 episodes a week, so stay tuned. Be sure to comment if you can, and give us some feedback, and we'd love to hear from you. So, yeah, I want to thank Champ Ian and G.I. Jolie for joining me as usual.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and until next week, there's more where that came from.